OEMs today are facing an increasingly high-stakes environment in after-sales quality. On one side, there's pressure to deliver software-defined features at unprecedented speed. On the other side, margins are tightening, warranty reserves are growing, and recall exposure is rising, all under heightened regulatory and customer scrutiny. The competitive landscape is also shifting rapidly, with new entrants from Asia accelerating their feature velocity, which puts pressure on traditional quality assurance cycles. Testing windows are getting shorter, updates are coming faster, and software-driven features are expanding rapidly. Despite terabytes of connected vehicle data, many OEMs still experience slow root cause investigations, delayed issue detection, disconnected teams, and quality operations. These challenges are costing billions in warranty recall expenses. McKinsey research shows that the OEMs can reduce quality-related costs, including warranty and recall expenses, by up to 30% through better use of advanced analytics and AI. But this requires a fundamental shift in how issues are detected, investigated, and resolved. So with that, I'm thrilled to be joined by McKinsey's senior expert and associate partner, Paul Hackert, to take a look at this topic, both from a strategic and from an operational perspective. Paul, good morning.
Morning, Jason. Excited to be joining you for this discussion.
And just to give the audience some background on Upstream and where we come from and what we're bringing into this conversation. Upstream is a mobility-focused startup with a data platform that's been serving over 17 OEMs now. And we're monitoring over 30 million connected vehicles through our platform today. And on that, we've built applications in proactive quality detection, which we're here to talk about today, as well as fraud, cyber, and some other use cases. So with that, to get started, let's get the audience engaged a bit here, Paul. And we'd like to do a poll and ask what are your challenges related to reducing warranty and recall costs and improving after-sales quality? See what the audience thinks is most important here. We got a lot of votes for limited data availability, inaccurate root cause.
Jason, I think some of these top reasons are fitting well with our topic today.
Yeah, I think so. And I know you've been out doing surveys on this topic as well. Interesting to see how this aligns with our group today. Everybody's still waking up this morning. Okay, so it looks like we've got about some. It looks like inaccurate root cause analysis is leading, Paul.
Yeah, I have to say, over my career in the automotive industry, prior to McKinsey and my time at McKinsey, I think that's one of the most common, warranty reduction, kind of process issues I've seen is teams see what looks like a root cause and they jump to that conclusion. They don't really verify it with, like a test, and then they move on to a countermeasure that doesn't really fix it. So I think, having machine analytics and AI to really get down to the real data to prove it's the root cause, that's going to be big.
Yeah, you get too far down the wrong path there, and then it's you're in more trouble than when you started. And limited data availability right behind that. I'd say, right, one vote behind that. So that's interesting to note too, and we'll get into talking about that here. So Paul, one of the reasons we're talking this morning is you worked with the McKinsey team on an article focused on advanced analytics within the world of vehicle quality. You've seen how this environment has already transformed, and you're working with the customers that are in the midst of those current changes and transformations. So based on what you've seen with some OEMs holding billions in warranty and recall reserves, What are the key drivers behind those rising costs, and where do you see the strongest levers for financial impact?
No, thanks, Jason. Good question. And maybe if we could go to the next slide, I'll sort of kind of set up. I mean, it's of course obvious. Fewer warranty problems, better quality is good for customers, but there's also a pretty big financial impact to automakers, OEMs, and suppliers. This graph shows since 2019, the warranty spend in billions, for whatever this looks like, maybe 10 OEMs. And you can see over time it's increasing. So that's I think a lot of that's coming from more and more complex electronics. Often, instead of being distributed models, now the big modules are becoming interconnected. So the software, the electronics has become much more challenging. I think customer expectations have risen. Maybe we're all used to iPhones and Android phones that have great customer features and are very reliable. So bottom line, warranties increasing a lot, and it's big numbers. If we go to the next slide. So, if you think of, these warranty costs can be up to 5% of a automaker's or a supplier's warranty. Benchmark probably being 2% or under. So that's a big opportunity. And we think if taking like the traditional quality tools and processes and overlaying that with AI and ML, that can that the combination could reduce these warranty costs by 20 to 40%. So, we're talking, 1, 2, maybe even 3 percentage points of additional profit for that company. So that's pretty big. Then it's all about earlier identification of issues and better kind of root cause problem solving, kind of like the survey, not jumping to the wrong conclusion on the root cause, and more robust recurrence prevention.
Interesting. Yeah, I look at that, that shift in baseline on the previous slide. You can clearly see it in the second half, Paul, and it's interesting that that does correspond to the intelligence of the vehicles, because in a lot of our applications at Upstream, we're talking to customers about 2018, 2019 really being the impetus for us and getting involved there. So when you look at after sales quality today, how are OEMs balancing innovation in that velocity that's needed to drive those features with the need for discipline and cost control? What are the risks that you're seeing OEMs face as they accelerate their software delivery cycles, and how are the leading players really managing that balance between speed of innovation and keeping in front of it from the warranty and recall perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Maybe if we go to the next slide. I do want to note that, here's warranty rates as a percent of revenue for a variety of OEMs. And this comes from a public document, Warranty Week. And you can see some OEMs, at least for whatever year this was, 2023, we're managing their warranty costs pretty well. So, the opportunity is there. But I will note that said, even the best OEMs are at risk of, especially a software issue becoming a problem. So it kind of requires, constant diligence and really robust design verification and so on. To your question, Jason, I think there's with software issues becoming a common source or root cause. That's a little bit, and it takes time to develop software and to prove it out and to get all the different modules talking to each other. At the same time, OEMs are accelerating their product development process. Not too long ago, it was maybe 4 to 5 years to develop a vehicle. Now it's down to 3 to 4 years, and some OEMs are even beating that. So you've got the tension between developing the vehicle more and more quickly, giving the automakers and suppliers less time to detect issues during the design verification and the launch ramp up process. But this increasingly complex software and other systems too that are present risk to the automaker. So maybe if we go to the next slide. So I think this really brings us to that point where traditional quality approaches like 5 Whys and Pareto's, they're good disciplines and they still have a place, but they're probably not enough by themselves to get companies down to benchmark levels. These items on the right, we talked about software number one. We mentioned a little bit, or number two is like the vehicles are becoming more and more not customized per se, but just so many different options and varieties to choose from. So so many variations of a given model. Seeing more and more intermittent, unpredictable failures, very difficult to find the root cause. Verification, validation, that takes time. It takes vehicles during the development process. So kind of bottom line, the number 5 there, the traditional tools, managed by humans is kind of got to the point where it's not enough to really always nail the root cause quickly enough and to be assured you have a good countermeasure and you're not going to have recurrence again.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we're right back to what our poll was telling us, right, Paul? That, inaccurate root cause analysis. And then the other one was limited data availability, which I always find very interesting because we have more data than we've ever had. But data availability is different than data, right? So, and I'm getting that feedback. So when you think about that, many organizations say they have the data, but they're actually struggling to act on it. What kinds of capabilities, tooling, team models, what can bridge that gap most effectively?
Yeah, good question. Let's go to the next slide. I kind of want to maybe use this house of quality as a example where the data issue can really hit home. To me, quality is far-reaching. Throughout the vertical kind of functions there, like product development and supplier quality and manufacturing quality and after sales. But you need good KPIs, you need good strategy, you need good corporate approach. So there's data everywhere, and in my experience, it's often not linked well together. Product development might have their own system compared, versus a supplier quality versus the manufacturing plant. So there's a ton of data, perhaps overwhelming for a given quality engineer or analyst to deal with, but something that a good machine learning AI system could better post-process and make it useful for the team to do their work. And maybe if we jump to the next slide. So if this slide sort of shows the whole warranty process from identifying an issue on the far left through a countermeasure there in the middle and recurrence prevention on the right. And we just highlighted a few of the boxes in blue where AI and machine learning could probably really accelerate or make the process more robust. I think in the middle there under RCA and countermeasure, that's kind of one of my favorite examples where AI can help the team understand, hey, what variants of the vehicle are being affected, what regions in the world or the country are the warranty issues popping out. A human could eventually do that, but it's just going to take so much more analysis, something that analytics and AI could really accelerate. So I think there's just tons of opportunity to overlay these more advanced analytics into the basic quality process and warranty reduction system. Maybe I jump then to the next slide. So I think the combination can really impact the OEMs or a supplier's business in a positive way. Of course, the cost reduction from less warranty expense is big. And it's not just warranty expense. It's not having to put yard holds on vehicles that can't be shipped, or sale holds on vehicles that are in the dealers waiting to be sold. I mean, it just goes throughout the enterprise. The enhanced reliability is big. Customers talk to other people, and word of mouth spreads, and the companies and OEMs that have a better reputation, better reliability, that's been shown to translate to more sales. And that's kind of part of the last one there, the reputation. So, a better reputation leads to better word of mouth, leads to better sales and better overall business for that OEM. So that, Jason, maybe back to you for you and Mobex for our next poll.
Yeah, let's get the audience involved again, and we'll run another poll. So for the audience out there, currently, how advanced is your adoption of AI and ML solutions to improve these field quality investigations, to improve your issue prioritization or root cause analysis? Give us some feedback there. Let us know where you stand today. Wow. We have an early, significant lead on still experimenting, Paul. I think that's a hat tip to just to where we are with the technology as well, right? This is emerging. We're figuring out how to get this integrated into a people, process, and technology that's been there a very long time.
Yeah, that seems to be true for not just automotive quality warranty, but almost any industry and almost any topic. So it's kind of an exciting time, I think.
Yeah. We were sort of through the years of the parlor trick with AI, right? And sort of through the art of the possible in thinking about, wow, how is this really going to change things? And I think everybody's at the point we know we need to get to work. But yeah, wow, like 70% so far still experimenting. By the way, the next group, Paul, is the group that hasn't tried any AI or ML solutions yet at all.
No. Well, Jason, how about we flip the tables back to you? I know Upstream is at the forefront of using ML and AI in proactive quality detection and resolution. You want to give us a little more feel for how this works in action?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we take a look at where Upstream has been focused, it's to me, Paul, it looks a lot like a little bit between your focus areas for the warranty and recall process and the benefits. Upfront is ROI. We've honed in on ROI as one of the most important KPIs, and we expect to achieve this primarily through earlier detection in our application of AI to move up the identification, the root cause analysis, and resolution of issues earlier in the process, where today most of this activity we see happening after claims have been paid as kind of a look back. We think we can do better. We think we can get up earlier in the process. We're going to add efficiencies, of course, with the AI models, but we're going to focus these efficiencies as well on these 5 and 6 L and XL quality issues that have the most potential to deliver that ROI early. I spent a year interviewing CDOs for CDO Magazine, talking to them about successful AI projects, successful data projects, and that was a big theme, was being sure to find ways to deliver that early value. That's what justifies the cost. That's what increases the funding, and that's where we're focused here as well. We're going to add velocity to the entire process, so both very focused on velocity there. We're moving up detection to just after sales instead of after claims or parts return. These are very slow processes, and there's plenty of data to be analyzing well ahead of that. So we're taking a very data-driven approach analyzing all of the data in scope. So this ranges from telemetry to repair orders, not just claims. So from the time a customer brings their vehicle in with an issue, we're going to use digital signatures and AI models to begin to develop, to look out across the fleet at the telemetry and try to predict, what's the impact of this? How many other vehicles out there are likely to have similar issues? And this is all tied very, very closely to customer sat. I was happy to see you mention that and point to that as well, because from our perspective, this really goes hand in hand. Low customer satisfaction comes back around, impacts reputation, impacts sales, which fund all of this activity. So when you have customers identifying their own issues, they take it in. We don't have a remediation yet. Those are the customers the worse off, right? On top of that, add to that supply chain issues. Sometimes we're waiting for parts. And we live in the age of social media, right? So these guys are posting that and saying, hey, my brand new vehicle is sitting here waiting for parts. So that's something we don't want to see. We want to get proactive so that we can change that situation to one where, even where we're reaching out to those customers and remediating, before we kind of hit a critical failure or a more expensive repair. So if we look at, we took and laid out this warranty process as well, a little bit more simplified view than yours, Paul. But and the criticism of this has been it's very reactive. You see that field quality investigation and root cause analysis, we see those groups a lot of times waiting for replaced parts to be shipped back after the claim's been paid, after the entire entirely after the fact, and then they kind of pile up. We say, oh, this looks like a bigger stack of parts. Let's prioritize that one, and it's just a very, very reactive process. We think with the data we have and processing that data earlier in the process, we can provide the tooling to really get field quality investigation involved much earlier, after customer sale, with continuous analysis of the AI models, and pull that field quality investigation right up front. We want them engaged from the time the product ships. We're looking past claims into repair order data to get an earlier indication as soon as the first customer notices and brings their vehicle in to the dealer. So we have an eye on working through some of this root cause analysis with the data that we do have before that claim's even paid. We can see what's going on. We can be monitoring the technician comments and the diagnosis. We want to be well ahead of that very slow process of shipping parts back for inspection. When we look at the anatomy of, how would you build a platform that enables all of this? It of course is going to consist of these powerful AI models that we built, but it's important to understand the data scope. We want to feed these models with all the relevant data sources, and I think that's a lot of what the audience has told us about data availability. There's just so much of it that it's very difficult to give access to that much data to the entire organization. So what we really need to do is distill the insights out of it and make that more accessible. So we're feeding them all the relevant data sources. Again, those repair orders, telemetry, of course, everything relevant and in scope to this. And we're looking across 3 different vectors. We're looking at the component level, we're looking at the single vehicle level, but we're also looking across the fleet. And that's what's allowing us to bring the tooling so that we can begin work on this entire process a lot earlier. So if you look at what something like that might look like and what you can achieve with analytics in a process like this, we've got the number of claims across the bottom. And, when vehicles are taken into dealers from that very first step of, hey, I've got a problem here, we can do virtual inspections of all the data we already have. So we have the telemetry that's been sent up from that vehicle since it drove off the lot, right? So we can start analyzing that immediately. We can do our trend analysis upfront and early across the whole fleet. That way we get a good baseline. that's going to help us with prioritization, because when we start to see, okay, people are bringing their vehicles in with problems, we can look further across the fleet using a digital signature of what do these problem vehicles look like, what does a control group look like, and what does that baseline look like, so that we're getting involved much earlier in the process, and much earlier we're able to prioritize the issues that we're working on. And then we're able to go out and monitor and detect across the entire fleet uh, to see, how much of an impact does this look like it's going to have? How many vehicles out there today? User hasn't complained yet. The operator hasn't noticed anything. Look like they're headed that direction based on all the telematics and what we saw with the vehicles that we already have. So early detection, expedited investigation, and targeted response. Those are really the key focus areas for us, Paul.
Very, very cool, Jason. Well, we've honestly been a little bit OEM centric in some of our discussion so far. Could this also be used by tier one suppliers, do you think?
So suppliers, absolutely. Actually, I was just down in Nashville at a Map Connected event. It was an AI think tank put together with OEMs and suppliers, and they brought in a few of us in the space of analytics to kind of workshop with them, applying these AI models and applying this to their projects, how it could help their process, how it could help improve. And I think with the suppliers, the OEMs have the advantage of those TCUs that are deployed, and they can kind of get the data a lot faster. They can do it real time with the vehicles on the road. But suppliers are receiving portions of that data in some cases from the OEMs. They have data of their own. I mean, I was amazed at the data that, like, a Bridgestone, for example, has troves of data, and the only telemetry involved there is maybe the TPMS system data, right, that they could see. But a lot of this is just measurements of tires replaced under warranty. So yeah, there's anywhere there's data, you do have to think about how you're gathering that data, and the suppliers have a different challenge in gathering that data than the OEMs, I think. But the same methods and the same tooling absolutely can be applied.
That's really
So
great.
let's take another poll. Let's go out and ask our audience. We've talked about Paul's talked about some of the advantages. I've talked about some of the tooling and methods. What's the most important benefit to you? What do you see using AI and ML, applying that to after sale quality investigation? What's most appealing? And right away, we're pretty divided here. Lots of good answers, I think, Paul. We stacked the deck. Velocity's taken the lead. I think at the group last week, Paul, that was the thing most discussed as well, as the criticism of the process today is, how do we get in front of it? How do we get, we're very reactive. Everything we do is set up looking backwards. How do we get proactive?
Yeah, I'm going to touch on the prioritization of issues, even though it's not a high ranked one here. I think that can be important. Every company has limited resources, so you really want to focus your resources on what matters most to customers. So that can really be big and apply then to all these issues.
Yeah, that's another one that I think is it can be related, because when you have the identification of the wrong issue, of the wrong root cause, by the time you get to the right one, it's a lot bigger issue. So I think it plays in there. Yeah, so our top looks like our top from this group is velocity and identification of issues before the customer notices. That's interesting to me, Paul, because I think that's another people process thing that's being figured out right now, is recalls themselves can be very reactive. The bulletins put out there, but you're waiting on the customer to bring it in. And I think with this data, everybody's recognizing, man, we can prevent a bigger repair here. We can save some money. So maybe we need to look at that.
And from a velocity standpoint, I think without ML and AI, benchmark is, from finding the issue to getting, countermeasure parts into the parts depot for, for field repair. Benchmark might be, I don't know, in the order of 60 to 90 days, but I've seen instances where it's a year or even more than a year. And so just a huge opportunity to not only find out when the issue is, find the issue faster before customers tell you, but to accelerate the whole process.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Paul, let's close out of slides, and I think this is a great basis for discussion. Let's take a look at. I mean, a question that I have for you in your experience in working in this field. What do you see right now as the biggest barriers to early detection that we're facing?
Sure, and I'm guessing many in the audience have experienced what I'm going to say, but I mean it starts almost kind of like your earlier slide in the process. It starts with the customer. If it's not a super troubling issue, it may take the customer a while to call the dealer to get the issue repaired. So they're suffering with some issue for a while. Then once the car gets to the dealer, may take them a while to root cause the problem, just to get it fixed or to file the claim. So the OEM doesn't even realize anything's happened for a while. Then each OEM's warranty system's different.
Yeah,
did you have a question there,
no,
Jason?
I just a comment on that. Even things like the supply chain. I was talking to a manufacturer that was saying, related to this time till they understand the issue, that a lot of repair or, the vehicle will be pending parts and it'll be sitting there because of the supply chain backup. Then the parts clear and come in, and by the time they see, the stage that they're looking at it, they have a ton of these because the supply chain was backed up. So all these vehicles are sitting and they're not really noticing and taking action until after that. So that issue's definitely been exacerbated recently.
Yeah, good point. And I was going to kind of also say, just in the parts return, is sometimes the quality teams need the physical parts to help diagnose the root cause. So bottom line, every step of the process takes a lot of time. So, I think that for many OEMs, the biggest warranty risk happens when there's a new model introduced. And so it can be weeks after, the new vehicle's released for sale until the OEM even knows there's an issue out there. So to me, it'd be so cool to go from, weeks and weeks before the OEM knows there's an issue to, using ML and AI to perhaps even detect the issue before the customer even knows it's happening. So, where we can actually contact the customer and say, hey, we think there's an issue on your vehicle. Could you please bring it in? And it just saved weeks and months off the whole process.
Yeah. Yeah. And that let's get into that. So you touched on this a bit in your slides, but let's dig in a little bit to the challenge with the traditional root cause analysis methods. And they're falling short. We have more data than ever. We didn't have all this continuous telemetry and all this, that in the past. Now we seem to be swimming in data, but we're still struggling with this. We're actually struggling to incorporate that data and I think this is one of the areas we're really looking for AI to help with that, right, Paul?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've already talked about vehicles getting more complex, interconnected with electronics and software, and I mean that makes root cause analysis even more challenging. But even before the electronics, I mean, I think quality teams often got fooled into not really identifying the correct root cause. It just whatever. I mean, many companies I deal with use the 8D problem solving process, and if you do follow that to a T, including proving with a test that you have the root cause, you can get there, but it really takes time. It really takes good problem solving discipline with the team. So anything, like ML and AI that can aid that process is really going to go a long way to helping identify the true root cause and really result in getting a countermeasure to the customers so much faster than before.
That's interesting because one of the things that came up again in this from customers is, okay, so you can train AI on something and you train it to detect something specific, but we usually have a problem and then we fix it and we never see it again. But so how do you train it to come up with like the unknown? And we do that. It's a little bit noisy, but what's interesting about that is the feedback we get when we do that is that maybe it didn't give me the answer, but it told me where to look. And that's probably one of the better things that this has potential to do for these teams, right? Is get them looking in the right direction from the beginning and not chasing down the wrong root cause.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So something I think the audience might appreciate is a little bit of insight into how quality, warranty, and field operations teams can collaborate more effectively. Once these early warnings have been triggered, there's a reaction, and that involves your people and your process. How are they accelerating the confirmation of true root cause across global platforms? What's your take on that, Paul?
That's a good question, Jason. To me, the product development process has come a long way over the last 20 years. Most OEMs have gone from developing vehicles in silos, engineering, hand the ball over to manufacturing, hand the ball over to sales, to being much more cross-functional, but not as much in the quality world. And I have been involved with automakers that took a new approach to quality and got rid of those silos, where they've instead of having the engineering team, the manufacturing team, the supplier quality team, they organize their at a with some help at a corporate level, they organize their teams to be more, hey, the chassis team or the electronics team, and each of those teams has engineering, manufacturing, supplier quality. So to me, that has been, I saw it myself, phenomenally more effective resolving quality problems quickly, and it really avoids what I call, ping-ponging the root cause from one team to another. Because in the silo way, a corporate quality person might say, "Oh, this looks like it's a engineering issue," so they assign it to engineering, but it may not be the right root cause. So then they do their thing, and then they toss it over to supplier quality. But if you have a team that all works together, all the functions together, then you don't have that issue, and they can just focus on fixing the issue, not debating who owns the root cause.
So you're talking about more, I could call it vertically aligned by component or by group, with those functions in those groups versus being aligned by function and completely separated across. That's good insight.
Yep, exactly.
So what do you, we have quite a few, I'm sure we have and warranty and quality engineers involved, but I'm sure we also have the attention of quite a few management level individuals in this webinar today, just because the impact, that baseline shift up, I'm sure it's on their mind. How do you think they strategically prioritize detected issues? This is something else. I think when we started working with them, we saw a little bit of inconsistency here. Is that driven by risk? Is it driven by financial impact? Is it driven by critical safety? What are your thoughts on how issues should be prioritized, Paul?
Well, I definitely think that Organizations that are good at prioritizing all the multiple inputs are better at doing what's right for the customer. Um, each organization has limited resources, so you really want to put your resources on the most important problems. 100% a safety issue is always going to be number one. There's never a doubt about that. But what about all the other indicators of warranty? Or quality. You have your warranty indicators. 1 month in service, 3 months in service, 12 months in service. You have JD Power initial quality survey. You have JD Power VDS. You have consumer reports. You have internal indicators. There's just so much data out there telling the company there's an issue. But to me, the better you can understand those indicators and weight them and then prioritize a cohesive list for these cross-functional teams to tackle, the better that company is going to do at making the customer happy and getting the most out of their resources. So, Jason, let's turn the tables back to you again. With your experience at Upstream, what should executives expect from AI and quality detection in terms of clarity, speed to impact, and alignment with warranty and recall KPIs? At the end of the day, how long should it take for them to see and get some value from this?
Yeah, so we get the feedback that when a recall is inevitable, moving up the timeline can easily have an impact in the millions. There can be, however, a bit of a learning curve in taking a group of quality investigators or quality engineers and getting them to think more like data analysts. But that's where AI can be helpful. I think one of the reasons there's a bit of a gap in what people are saying about data availability and the data that we actually have is because that these are engineers. They want those parts shipped back because they're used to dealing in the physical world of things, and the data is maybe a little bit abstracted for them. We see the digital signature having an impact though on setting that priority and having that more pressing impact on issues that don't currently have a root cause. So when combined with the domain knowledge on these teams, something that points them in the right direction. And this goes back to our conversation on, jumping to the wrong root cause too quickly. We can point them in the right direction relatively quickly. And that speed up, I think, Paul, is something that you're going to see. You should be able to measure that impact fairly quickly.
Very cool. So what smart first steps can leaders take to accelerate progress with ML and AI without overwhelming their teams?
So the biggest thing is probably going to be to listen to your teams. We didn't have these teams to develop the telematics. So sometimes it's really interesting, their feedback. We might have a signal that needs to be adjusted a bit, or it's not so useful as we thought it was going to be. We actually find listening closely to their challenges is one of the best sources. It's been one of the best sources for our product roadmap. These guys are in the trenches, and if you socialize it, they know a lot of the challenges that we have. So we have a lot of good ideas, and I think most importantly, unmatched domain expertise. I'm not the domain expert that these guys are in their areas, and when we combine that with AI is really when that's going to give us results. So the other thing that's a bit of a challenge is AI is potentially going to change the way the work is done. And that is something to be a bit sensitive about. I was talking to a leader recently about how some of the quality engineers on our team don't think this should be their job to use these tools. My job is getting parts back and looking at them and doing the Pareto analysis and the things I've always done. And it's because I think they don't recognize the work. It's different than they're used to. It can be very different from the way we've been doing things in the past. That's to be expected. Paul, you've worked with lots of large organizations on transformations. The teams are there for their domain knowledge ultimately, and that's super important too. Something we're doing that seems to be working is leaning into the team members that are embracing the technology, maybe making them the ringleaders of applying that, and not necessarily putting the pressure on everyone all at once, and then looking for those results to spread. Right, we look for those early wins and to get more of them excited about what AI is going to be able to do for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. So how can executives ensure that AI and quality technology stay aligned with what they consider their important business outcomes and, not just technical performance? Or, how can they measure their ROI if they invest in this kind of technology?
Yeah, so ROI is measured in dollars and time, right? And with warranty, that's one of the nice things about addressing this space is it is easily quantifiable to measure impact. We can see how we're doing. We looked at the chart, Paul, and we could see how that baseline shifted pretty easily, right? Now, I do think to really understand it, there's some things we need to watch out for. We may need to sharpen some of the KPIs and metrics. We've talked about these traditional timeframes that warranty is operated over, and that leads to a lot of things that happen when the timeframes are longer. We're leaning on a lot of tribal knowledge and decision-making habits that are, more tribal and more, human and intuition-based. And that can be challenging when we bring things like a standardized impact score to the table. Or we have other things that have developed for this, like we set a higher reserve for every car sold, right? So that alleviates maybe the financials bucking up and down too much when we have a bigger issue or a smaller issue. But it can also mean we're not looking beneath the surface. We're only caring about the peaks that jump above, right? So we got to make sure that we're looking, sharpening those tools so that we can, maybe we're even looking at data that we didn't care about because it was well below the reserve to measure the impact so that we can understand it. Because things like those reserves, those are trailing indicators. Those get set over time to keep us safe. But we got to look a little deeper than that for sure.
Very cool.
So Paul, let's thank you for the time and the discussion today. I know we've got a little over a few minutes left here. Let's recap kind of what we've gone over, and then I want to spend some time to get a little bit more Q&A from the audience here.
Sure. Yeah, I guess definitely exciting times. As a wrap up, I think we'd say that ML and AI can really complement traditional warranty processes. We talked about velocity. 100% is going to help a lot, with detecting issues so much faster and getting countermeasures that work to the field faster. We think the countermeasures are going to be much more effective and robust because AI can really help the teams understand really what's going on, what's the real root cause, and how to prove the countermeasure fixes it. And just effective triage, effective prioritization, putting the resources on the top issues, and really driving warranty costs down and driving customer satisfaction up. So very, very, very exciting to be part of this.
All right. Thanks, I guess.
Thank you.